that's the gearbox prepped, ready to go in. Didn't go overboard on the gasket goo as per usual. It probably looks worse than it is. It's just a thin smear all the way around. I normally have to trim the ends of this half moon seal as well, because it's normally way too long, and when you compress it too much, if it's over long, it starts to deform in the centre. So what I normally do is cut a couple of mil off each end just to make it a better fit. It's still over long, but when it compresses now, it doesn't deform as it did before. So next job will be to drop that onto the engine. So that's the new gearbox fastened onto the block. However, I have made a slight cock up. I drilled all the holes in the gearbox casing to make them bigger, to fit the biggest nuts that go through into the block. However, I managed to miss one. That one there, nice and easy to get to, so I'm going to have to try and find some way of enlarging that hole slightly. Maybe try a drill bit, or perhaps the Dremel mini drill, just to enlarge it so I can get the bolt in. Okay, so here's a demonstration of the difference between the standard magnetic sump plug and the gold one that mini spares do. So won't quite pick up that spanner. That's the standard one. Now this is the mini spares gold one. There you go, there's the difference. Grabs it no problem, doesn't want to let go. Okay, for the moment I've given up on that hole in the gearbox, trying to make it bigger. I can't see how I can get anything in there, so what I've done is gone around to this side of the engine, put the primary gear on, and I'm just checking the end float. I thought I'd show you a little trick just to measure the end float, because not everybody has a dial gauge with a big long end on it to try and get on one of these ends here, one of these teeth, because you want to try and measure the movement that way. So just tape a stud or bolt on, put your end of your dial gauge on the end of that, and then you can that way accurately measure the primary gear end float, and it's more accurate than obviously just doing feeler gauges in one side of here. You can do it that way of course, but this is just a slightly better way of doing it. And I got about 4 thou of play in there. You can see the dial gauge moving. So that means I can put the gasket on this end and put the flywheel end housing back on. I put a new primary gear oil seal in, so this end's all ready to go back together. Right, time to put the flywheel end cover on, or the flywheel end casing. Important thing to remember is to put some tape on the primary gear on the teeth, so you don't bugger up the oil seal that you just put in the end casing. that's the end cover finally on. I had to turn the engine on its side for it to just fit better somehow. I think it was all to do with just the slight angle on the idler gear inside, and it just sat a little bit better with the engine down, and I was able just to pop it on there. It just wouldn't settle properly when I was doing it vertically. So now I'll just go around, put in all the nuts and bolts and tighten them up. I'm using new Nylux in here as opposed to the old knackered soft tabs and normal nuts that were in there. So a new Nylux in there, and then all the other bolts tightened up to, I think it's £18 per foot. So I'll crack on with that. Okay then, time to put clutch in now. Alright, that's been a successful Sunday's work. Gearbox is on, firewall end housing's all on, clutch is all on. Next job will be the timing gear around the far side, and I will have to check the cam timing and adjust it if needed. Yeah, I'll go in, I'll start editing some video now. It'll be last week's video, i.e. the one you watched last week, but it'll be next week by the time it comes out. So as per usual, if you like these videos, hit like, subscribe, comment away, and I will see you on the next one.